Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we got play props here for you guys on a Tuesday night in the NBA with 13 games to choose from as the national championship in college is going on Monday night as we are recording this, getting to these player props early for you guys as they just came out not too long ago. Nate, let's go ahead, just jump right into your first NBA player prop for tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the Wolves coming off a Sunday loss to Portland, which is, really got to hurt in this tight playoff race. But Anthony Edwards looked like he was back. I mean, he's been back for 5 games now from the ankle injury and been wildly inconsistent. But he had 37 points on a 43% usage rate. Granted, against Portland, as I said, no D, also no NBA players in the lineup right now. Last time out against Brooklyn, though, a team that it has struggled against shooting guards all year, 32 points on a 30% usage rate. His 5 career games against Brooklyn, 25 points per game, 31% usage. So that's where the prop is 24.5 points. It's good odds on the over at FanDuel. Also even better odds for him to hit 3 threes because he's kind of struggled from deep. Like I mentioned, 5 since coming back, he averages out to 31% from deep and averages 22 points per game, but he's had these huge spike games. It's almost a situation where you're willing to take an alternate line and say like, whoa, I thought Ant would be 27.5 points, especially in this matchup, like right there with Mikal Bridges, who gave the Wolves the business in that game, and that's why Ant had to come right back and get 32. So, I mean, I think this prop is a little low. Brooklyn allows the second most points to shooting guards, and they're up to 31 points per game to shooting guards in their last 7. So obviously, I know you're a fan. You're nodding your head. So
I am.
Obviously, you're on board with Ant tonight.
I am. I'm on board with Ant. And to be honest, man, I'm on board with getting ahead of fading Mikal Bridges as one of the best defensive players of the NBA. Hear me out. I know his nickname is Mikal the Destroyer, but remember when Kawhi Leonard was one of the best defensive players in the NBA? It's not that he's not anymore. It's that he doesn't have to be because he can just throw up 28 points a game. And it's funny what it'll do to your psyche on defense when you're like, oh, I'm not as concerned if you score here because I'll just go get it back if I have to. And Mikal is turning into a 3-level scorer that we all need to start respecting a bit more than just the guy getting the stats for Brooklyn, because who else is going to get the stats? Like, this is an NBA player getting NBA points, and I'm using that as logic to say Ant's going to come right back at him. He's one of the most dependable egos in the NBA that you can rely upon to take shit seriously when he's getting in a mano sort of style matchup with a guy. And Bridges has been playing shooting guard for this team, so he may be guarding him, he may not, depending on if they want to use their pre-Kawhi guy on the best player on the other team, or if they're going to start not necessarily matching him up. But Brooklyn's very good at defense in other areas, and Ant's not the type of player that I think they're going to be quite as good against. So I'm with it, as you saw me nodding vigorously with you. I'm going to go under here on Domas. We kind of talked about that. Domantas Sabonis in the Sacramento Kings video against this Pelicans team that they're playing on Tuesday night, and we talked about fading him a bit. At 20.5 points is his the under would be the best play there on DraftKings at -120. I also really like the PRA, although he has gotten boards here and there against this Pellies team. It's and not nearly as close to this point total as of late against the Pelicans. But either way, the points, rebounds, and assists under, if he gets under 40 there, that's -110, and so it's a little bit better juice there than you're going to find for just the points. He's failed to hit all of either of those in his last 4 versus New Orleans here, and 3 of those were with Sac, 1 with the Pacers, 15 points a game, 12 boards, and then 7 assists, but a -52 in that time because he's playing against his big bro, as you mentioned, his fellow Lithuanian Jonas Valanciunas, averaging 13 points against him in his career, under 10 boards and 4 assists in about 27 minutes. And part of that, I would imagine, is because he's getting big boy down low and getting a bit of foul trouble as well against Joe Val. So look, we also just mentioned this New Orleans defense. It's good all over the place. Let's be very clear, but like, it's pretty much clamps down low, especially, it's the number 1 D overall, 6th fewest rebounds to centers, 10th fewest points. eighth fewest points in the paint, but actually number one in their last 8 games in terms of limiting points in the paint, and then number 2 in both limiting second chance points. You can't get fast break points against them. You can't really get rebounds against them right now either. They have the number 1 defensive rebound percentage in their last 8. So this Pelly's team is just we keep kvelling over them, to use a Yiddish word, because they're just looking awesome on defense, and it's fun to watch them put the clamps on teams.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, Joval didn't even play in one of these last 3 matchups for him against the Pels, and he still struggled because they have other bigs. They have Jackson Hayes, Willie Hernangomez, Larry Nance, guys who can just get into him. And also, you're wondering about the motivation for the Kings. Like, there's nothing much to be gained, like we said, with the Sixers in the 3rd spot. I mean, in terms of trying to go out and win this game, other than play the right way. Try to finish the season with some momentum, but I would rather take the under on that than assume that, Domantas is going to force anything. That's not his game anyway.
Yeah.
So 20.5 points is a lot against the number 1 scoring D right now since the break. And a similar feeling here. Against the Bucks defense, Deni Avdija to get 15.5 points or 23.5 points of rebounds. I'm going under on both of that here. I mean, in his last 7, he started to get a ton of minutes and usage because Kristaps and Brad Beal are out and Kuzma's been out. But he's a minus 25, so that's not ideal. But 15 points per game, 8 rebounds per game. So he's right at this average. But you look at what happens when he faces a packet-in defense, or 2 of them in a row, Orlando and the Knicks, down to 7.5 points and 4.5 boards, shooting 23%. And has a 62 offensive rating, same amount of turnovers as assists. He's not a shooter. I don't know what, he necessarily does really well, except, gets in the paint. He's a kind of a connective playmaker. He's basically, what I'm saying is he's playing ahead of his skis here. He's supposed to be like a number 1 or 1A option right now for the rest everybody Wizards. And he had a nice 17.6 rebound line in 31 minutes off the bench against the Bucks in March when Kristaps and Beal were still playing. So now you're going to ask him to go in there and go toe-to-toe with Giannis from the start and see how that goes. In a career against the Bucks, he averages 10 points. He has a 106 offensive rating, poor shooting splits, because he's a classic guy that the Bucks defense likes to identify and be like, we'd like him to shoot from the perimeter. We're not going to let him inside. Or go ahead and try Brook Lopez if you want. But, if you can't hit a jump shot reliably, sorry, son, you're not scoring in this one.
That's fair. I'm using the exact same logic here to pick Giannis to go over, by the way. And I think there's a heavy correlation in that sort of power forward position that Avdija is supposed to be playing as more of a, like you said, slash and glue guy in that sense, much more so than primary scorer. So the points for sure, I think you can go under on and feel pretty good about the points and rebounds, as well as mostly because it's the Bucks. And that's why I'm going to go ahead and talk about Giannis for a minute. And Chris Middleton is out in this game. To be clear, also, we've shot a video in the last week, and then a guy was ruled out as we were talking, and then another guy was ruled, and then he was ruled in when we weren't talking. It happened the other day with SGA, who was just ruled in all of a sudden, even though all the injury reports said he was out. So my main point is Middleton is out, and that's a big part of this bet of why I like Giannis, not just the 30.5 points, or even if Middleton's out, the 48.5 PRA. Now, if Middleton plays, I like, he's out, but he could play. If he does play, I still like the points no matter what, the 30.5 points. If he doesn't play, if he does play, though, I don't really like the 48.5 PRA in terms of points, rebounds, and assists combined, because he doesn't get the assists when Middleton plays. And that's a big part of why I also want to throw out a triple-double at plus 750 for Giannis against this Washington Wizards team that he loves playing dimes up against, and because without Chris Middleton, he gets a lot of dimes. He's expected to do a bunch more. He knows Drew is really his main other scorer, and he needs to do a bit more than and be a bit more of a ball handler rather than just someone who's off ball and getting put into good positions to score with his skill set. So, his last 3 without Middleton, he's put up 33 points, 11 boards, and 10 assists, and that's all in 31 minutes. So obviously those per 36 numbers are even better. His last 7 with Middleton, he's looking at just 5 assists per game. game. So he's obviously, like I said, becoming much more of a playmaker. He's got 3 triple doubles in the last 4 that games that he's played without Chris Middleton. So the plus 750 in a spot where he's done this, gotten that triple double, like I said, 75% of the time in the last 4 games, it seems like it's much more worth it. Like also just this Washington team awful against power forwards all over the place all season, even worse in the last 7. And that's why Giannis has averaged 35 a game, 13 boards and 9 assists in his last 4 versus this team, including that 55-point outburst, by the way, earlier this season.
Yeah, I mean, it dovetails right into what I'm talking about with Deni Avdija, is that I don't think the Wizards have the personnel. They have guys playing out of position, ahead of schedule, whatever you want to call it. The question is, will it be a blowout? But, it hasn't really mattered for Giannis. Like, if he gets 31 minutes, he's scoring 31 points. Like, even in that Celtics beatdown, he had 24 points in 25 minutes. He was basically the only guy on the Bucks, like, trying or being aggressive after it got out of hand. He has no off switch. He will go after points, rebounds, and assists. And the Bucks need to win a couple more games to hold off those Celtics, who, by the way, fell into a trap against these Wizards before playing the Bucks. So I think Giannis will set the tone, and even if he gets pulled in the third quarter, he's probably going to put up his stats before then.
Yeah. This is probably this is the easiest game they have left. They can't lose this game if they want to win 3 of 4 to guarantee themselves the 1 seed. They could win 2 of 4, potentially still get it, but they win 3 of 4 and they guarantee themselves that 1 seed. I think they do care about it, despite how much it didn't seem like they care about it when they were unable to score 100 points against the Celtics. But this Washington Wizards team ain't the Celtics, so feeling pretty good about Yanni in this one. And that is all the time we have for you in this one, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Also got a couple game videos up for you on this Tuesday night slate, so check those out as well. And until we see you next, happy betting.